welcome to the Aware Show. I am Lisa Garr, and so happy to be here with you today because this is an episode of the Aware Show presents Rising Stars. That is you, my friend. You are the one who has been searching, who has been learning, who has been on a spiritual path for many years. And now you're the expert. And I get the honor of interviewing people who are on absolutely amazing journeys, very much just like you and me, but have come across their piece of the world where they've discovered, this is what works for me. Let me share it with you. So we get to hear a story today, a beautiful story of healing through art, a magnificent journey. Sometimes do you maybe not know how to express the level of maybe depth in your soul or pain in your soul? And you've maybe gone through life coping in various ways and dealing with repressed emotions that don't have an outlet really until you get to music or art or dance or some form of creative expression. It could even be writing, and words come through that or maybe not even the words, maybe the art form comes through in a way that words cannot even or never could convey. And some people have chosen to do this, particular to my guest today, Susan Fraser-Hughes, and she has chosen healing through art. She herself has been a visual artist for decades. She has 3 degrees and a PhD in fine art, but her art, it's been seen all over in exhibitions and wonderful displays. But what she really seeks to do through her art is to open a door of conversation about art as healing. And that's what she calls it, the evolving artist. Welcome, Susan. Thank you for joining me and for being on this journey together with me.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. It's truly an honor. So thank you very much.
So I love that, what you say, the evolving artist, because the artist is never fully arrived, are they? They are constantly evolving, aren't they?
I think I don't know what's ahead of me, and I certainly didn't know what was behind me. It just evolved naturally. I've been guided, I'm pretty sure, by something bigger than myself that's been saying, now I need to look at this now, I need to look at this now.
But aren't we all really? And you have a way for life to come through you rather than just come at you, but it wasn't necessarily always this way. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Perth, in Western Australia, and I have two sisters and my parents. And my parents moved from England, so we were the only family that were in Australia. So very much removed from family beyond that.
Mhm.
And then when I was in my 20s, I came on a teacher exchange to Canada and met my husband when I was here. And we ended up staying, and I've lived here ever since.
So in a typical English family, there wasn't really a lot of discussion about emotions or pain or really talking about the elephants in the room. Was that your experience growing
Yeah, absolutely. We were encouraged to move on rather than address what was happening, and this would be, I would have said, a generational thing. This wouldn't be what just happened in my family. This is what would have happened in their families and their families before that. They just didn't discuss, and consequently, I learned not to talk about these things and not to address them, but just to sort of soldier on.
Well, in a way that, I mean, I can tell that you are a very sensitive and empathic person. So that would have affected you maybe differently than it affected your sister or another sibling, I would think. Is that true?
Yeah, I disconnected. I just learned to basically shut down a lot of parts of myself. I have a very strong personality, and I think that is what kept me going. but it was the sensitive side of me that was shut down. And I just learned to armor up. I built walls around myself, and anything that was hurtful, I've just pushed away. It just was something that started to build and build.
But when we do that, when we push things away like that, they just build underneath bigger and bigger and bigger. And how did that eventually manifest in your life?
Well, it's like a dam of water, I think, and you get the pressure that's building up against the outside of it, and you find ways to deal with it. I did exercise excessively, and then I launched into study in a big way, and we renovated houses, everything that was a distraction rather than dealing with what I needed to deal with, until sort of something happened and it broke me open.
It broke you open. Tell us a little bit about that as you were going through life. About what age did that occur?
It happened in my 30s. So I had already started out at this stage, and I already knew that I was on a journey, and I was already starting to process. But I was 38, and I decided very young I didn't want children. I just wasn't something that I wanted. And then around the age of 38, I realized, wait a minute, I do want children. And we got pregnant very quickly. And I was 16 weeks into the pregnancy, and we lost the child.
Oh my goodness. I got pregnant at 38 too, so I know that that's a high risk. They
Yeah,
label it as a high risk time. Wow, that is, I can't even imagine.
it's terrible, but in typical fashion, I just pushed it away. I knew I had limited time. I didn't have time to process this. This isn't how I deal with things. So I moved on, and then I got pregnant again, and we lost the next
Oh
pregnancy.
my goodness.
And then we couldn't. I wasn't able to conceive, and we decided we would try IVF once. We were going to give it a one-shot try, and we were told our odds were next to none. And by this stage, I'm 42, and
And the journey you had been on with two miscarriages and your relationship and everything, that is a very challenging journey.
it's a stressful one. And again, when you're not processing these things, obviously I was upset, and obviously, heartbroken, but still didn't take it on. But it was when we had our son, and I had him just shy of 43, that
Wow,
was when
miracle.
I broke open. That was when everything, because I now had to care for a child, and I became vulnerable. He was so precious and so lovely, and he was such a miracle that I just broke open. So all I had pushed away, all of a sudden, all my insecurity, all came flooding out.
Ah, my goodness. And that's such a bittersweet thing, though. You have this beautiful miracle child in front of you, and it let the walls down. So
It
you
let,
really truly loved once. I mean, you really truly loved this child.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's
Yeah.
my heart. So yeah,
Of course, our children are.
yeah.
And so when that broke you open, what manifested in you? How did that occur?
Well, it through my art. Like I said, I'd already started healing through art. So, I was being guided on the journey. When I started doing art, I had sort of kept the pathways and doorways and portals and all of that kept coming up. They kept coming up as repetitive themes. But when I became broken open, it became something different. So the art changed and became much more a look into not just the journey, but the layers within myself that I needed to heal.
So many layers. So many layers. First of all, it's I mean, can you unpack that a little bit for us? Because there's the whole part of the containment and keeping yourself safe and coping. And then there's the layer of the full vulnerability. There's multiple layers here.
I was doing my PhD at the time, and we had gone to Wales, and I'd seen a building there in the past that I knew spoke to me, and buildings often do. They resonate with me, particularly elements of buildings, and I knew there was a building I needed to go back to. So when I went into my PhD, I decided I was going to be guided by intuition only. I wasn't, whatever came up in books, I would follow the lead from the books. When I came across a building, I would follow the lead from the building. So I wanted to get back to a place of intuition and leading from intuition. And so I knew there was a building I wanted to study. And we went back to the building, and there were gargoyles on the building. And I knew that this was a series I needed to study. I didn't know why I needed to study it. I just knew I needed to study it. And the gargoyles consequently emerged into a series that were exploring loss of child. So yeah.
I see your puppy wants to be part of the interview.
Yeah, she's
Wait, take a look at me. Wondering what that noise was. No, commonly pets are joining our Rising Stars interviews. They seem to be very safe here. My cat was in the entire first one. Um, you know, I think that's really interesting how images or things find you, how you discover them through well, actually they find you. You have this wonderful story about these washers, and if you could share that story a little bit, and I will show some of the images of the washers as you're explaining it, if you don't mind.
Of course,
You
of
did a
course.
whole series on washers. Explain that.
Yeah, I had, because I am an empath, I take things on sometimes a little bit too much. And I had participated in a search for a mother who was suffering from depression, and she had gone into the woods. And so I had participated in a search trying to find her. And the search had ended badly. She had died in the woods. And I was shaken. It, as a mother, as a human, as it broke my heart to know that this is what had happened, and that she didn't have the help that or couldn't find the help that she needed. And I'd gone to my naturopath, and my naturopath does these amazing journeys with acupuncture, and she had taken me on a meditative journey into the heart. And as I was journeying into the heart, which was full of water, and she said, "There's somebody there that has something for you. What is it?" And I said, "It's a washer." And when I came out of the meditation, she said, "You need to find a washer. Go home and find a washer." I said, "I know exactly where one is." And ever since then, I've been finding washers, and they always appear at a time which is trying to remind me of something, trying to remind me to slow down, trying to remind me to think, trying to something. They appear. So I have this incredible collection of washers, and the drawings explore.
I'm going to show one of them here. This is charcoal. All of your work is done in charcoal, correctly? Correct?
Yes, that's
Why
right.
did you choose that as a medium?
Charcoal enables me to speak from a place that's from an intuitive place. So by removing all color and just working with black and white,
Mhm.
it just allows me to really work with my emotions, explore the emotions, the depth of darkness, the light, and the shades of gray in between.
Yes. No, so there's one I just showed this one. If you could tell us a little bit about this, and then there's another image I want to share as well. This is a darker image of the washer, right?
Yeah, they're all different. When I work in a series of drawings, I don't know what will come. So I'll start with just I'll take images of the washes, and they just develop. So it's something that's coming from deep within. And this one, I suspect, is coming from just that void, that place, that darkness that's hidden within, always with the light, but always with the darkness.
I see. And this is the other one that is a lot more light in the center. What does that signify?
That one is it's a space. It's a space you can move through. It allows that opening, that portal, that escape. I've learned through working with the washers that rather than having things come in and stick, I've got to allow them to flow so they can flow through me. I can listen, and I can absorb what other people are saying, but I can't retain it. I can't be the vessel that retains all of the hurt and all of the anger. I've just got to allow it to flow through.
Mm. And so that's the significance. And there are many different series in that particular washer series, but that's when you get into the space of doing the art, is it a ritualistic space for you, or is it just something that you sit down and you need to express? How does the actual art come through you?
Well, it starts with a symbol. So it starts with the gargoyle, or it starts with the washer, or whatever it is that I'm doing. But there is an immediate it resonates with me. Whatever it is that I'm doing, it resonates, it speaks. I know that I have to visually explore it. And when I'm visually exploring, I'll work in a series because it's telling a story. Like one will tell one aspect of the story and one will tell another aspect of the story. And I know when I'm done. I know when a series is complete because it's left me that flow, that just being able to connect with the with my soul. It's gone. So it's spoken the message I need to say, and it's helped heal me in the way it needs to heal me, and then I move on.
And then you understand it.
Mhm.
There, you were mentioning earlier about the gargoyles and about the building that called to you when we were talking about um, images that find you. And it could be anything, as you mentioned, the gargoyles on a building. We have an image here of one of the faces. And if you could explain this to our audience, I'm going to share this with everyone to see. This is, it looks like the eyes of a face. It touches you deeply, huh?
Yeah, does. It still brings tears.
Yeah.
Even this many years on, it brings tears. This was the first one that I did in the series, and it was based on one of the gargoyles that was on the side of the Bishop's Palace in St David's in Wales. And when I started this, I didn't know. I just knew I had to draw this series, and it's it wasn't until I was about 6 images in that I realized that this was actually exploring my loss of child, my silent scream, my not being able to voice my emotions the way I should have voiced them at the time. So almost like it's bound, almost like my mouth is bound and I'm holding things in.
Oh, I see. I see that. That is, and it didn't reveal itself to you until you stepped back and looked at it.
I didn't know. I didn't know what this series was about. I just know when I saw the gargoyles, what happens in particular spaces is like I can literally feel it resonating with me. It's almost like Have you ever seen a tuning fork, and you have another tuning fork of the same frequency, and when you hit it, it will vibrate without even being tapped?
Yes.
It's like that. It's like the energy of one is resonating with the energy within me, and it is pulling something out of me.
Wow. I mean, this is an incredibly therapeutic tool that you have discovered by way of doing, by way of being. By way
And
of being.
yeah, and by way of trusting in the process, and just trusting that what I'm doing is what I'm meant to be doing.
That is so beautiful. This is another series or another picture in the series, another one of your drawings in the series, and it seems like this is maybe the evolution of the gargoyle series. Can you tell us the difference on what you see here?
So that one reminds me of me.
Mhm.
So in many ways, it's like it's out of the whole series, this is the one that is almost like a self-portrait of me, but it's opening up. There's a little bit of an opening up happening, still pain, still incredible pain, but just starting to release a little bit, starting to open.
Starting to open. And how many pieces did you do in this particular series of the head?
I did 12, I
Wow.
think, in this particular series.
And this was
By
the
the end,
third.
by the end, the ones at the end, I had lost the connection. I had decided I was doing, the gargoyles I had chosen, but I'd lost the connection. The real emotion, the real healing came through in probably the first 6 images in this series.
Well, that's actually a really interesting sign that you had not lost it, but healed it.
It's true. Let go of a lot of just let go of a lot that I had just been storing, but it was just the start for me. So it was after that it was interesting, because I was doing that when I had my son, when I was doing my PhD, and I also had a nanny helping me part-time, and I could only do that work in the studio because it was such dark work. I couldn't, none of that could come into the house. The energy just couldn't, it was only in there that I could explore that sort of thing.
That makes sense. And what an interesting juxtaposition between the joy of your child and then going into this revealing of your mental health. And then you go back to the joy of your child and going back into the revealing of your health. And I'm sure it took a while to get there. How long did that particular series take you?
That one, I'm going to say it took me maybe 2 years. There were a couple of series I did in conjunction with that, but probably about 2 years. Yeah.
Mm,
Mhm.
that is special. It's almost better than talk therapy because it comes through you as a way of being rather than just talking consciously from the conscious mind. This comes from deep in the unconscious. You had mentioned that you built remodels and you built various homes and so forth with your husband when you moved, and you did a series around this, around home, but it meant more to you than just the remodeling, right?
I did. I mean, we had rebuilt a house. We had taken a bungalow and we had renovated it, and then we had done another renovation where we had built a 2-story addition. And then when we moved to Vancouver, we bought a house that was lock-up, and I had to finish it completely inside and out. And it was it was it was just trying to find a connection with place. Home means so many things to so many people, and the structure of the house was important to me. that layering within the house. But it also became place for me. It became about where we were living, and when we moved to Vancouver instantly became home for me, instantly felt like home to me. And so then it was finding the house within Vancouver that I could live that also felt like home. And so I had done a series based on home, just a simple home, just a sort of home that in the images, they just look like the sort of home that a child would draw, with the sloped roof and the sides, and just that visual, that symbolic visual of a space that is safe. I was looking for a safe place in which to live, a safe structure. Wasn't about fancy, wasn't about big. It was just a place that really spoke to the heart. And we had just sold the house that we had finished from lockup, and we were renting at the time, looking. And I did this series. I think I wanted to put it out there to the universe that this is what I wanted. I wanted a house that was safe, that spoke to the heart.
It makes sense with their evolution. This particular drawing looks like there's a darkness to a light. Where
Mhm.
there's the shadow side and then the illuminated side. Is there any other explanation that you could give around this one?
Light and darkness is just very important to me.
Mhm.
I, I, darkness is a place in which I've hidden myself, but it's also a place that has held me. Darkness has held me. And light is something that I'm drawn towards, but it's also something that I've been afraid of. So I think it's just balancing the light and the darkness that just play, such an enormous part of who I am.
Right. That makes sense. Total sense. The other parts of this particular series have had um an impact on me because home is so important. And I think it's important to women mostly of what home means. And it's a nesting, it's something that goes deep back into our culture and your perspective of it. It's so simple. It houses us. Some are unhoused that don't have this safety and protection of home, and it means so much to get back to that. To
Yeah,
not have a roof over your head is so completely unsettling.
yeah.
um, so this particular one was really showed the lightness of the house and the darkness surrounding it. This particular drawing, is there any?
No, there's no explanation. Honestly, when I do them, this is what comes. It's something that's deeper within me, and sometimes I can't explain. Maybe I'm frustrated that I'm
Yes.
finding what I want, and so I'm saying, okay, well, this is what it looks like. It's
Right.
just a simple house. When I finish this series, I would say within 2 months of finishing the series, we found the house.
Oh.
We walked in, we went to an open house, and we walked in, and we all three looked at each other and said, this is it.
Oh, how wonderful.
And so
Never
there,
know.
you never know. Yeah, yeah.
Well, but it's also a part of your evolution. What would you recommend to other artists as they're going through their evolution and as an artist always evolves? What would you recommend to sit down to either start processing, or what would you recommend to them?
When I started doing my first undergrad, one of the first exercises I was given was a box, and I had to create a self-portrait with the box. I had to, inside the box, show what I felt like inside, and outside what it was and I looked at this and I thought, this is just a crazy exercise. I came here to learn to create pictures that hang on the wall that I can sell, but that one exercise is the one that changed my life. that was the one that made me look at things completely different. Because after that, that was what started me on that journey. That started me, I still thought that what I wanted to do was, be in galleries, and I still do. But it's more than that. It became more about the journey and wanting to understand myself. So, I did my first degree and then I still didn't understand. I couldn't understand why I was creating this. I knew I needed more. So I did my next one and consequently did my next one. It's just, I needed to understand. And I think when we speak from the heart, we want to understand. We want to understand where this is coming from. And art can be more than just something that, I love art that that hangs on the wall. I love all art, but I'm just saying that there is a side of art that can be more than that. It can be
A
part of the
tool.
journey. Yeah.
Mhm. It can be a
Mhm.
tool for the journey. And I love hearing your explanations of it because so this particular one is, I think you called this the mask. And oh no, just a moment. You just talked about that, about um, being in this gap of where you're looking for a safe place, new things, change that's happening, how you're fitting in with everything. And if you could explain this, I love the title, Just a Moment.
Mm. I had finished my PhD and I thought, okay, now I'm ready. Now I am ready to get out there. And it was interesting because right at that moment, I realized I wasn't. I pulled out of all exhibiting probably for about 7 years because I wasn't ready, because I felt I was more vulnerable than ever. Like I had so much more work. The Gargoyle series had almost just lifted the lid, and then there was no putting the lid back on. To be able to be confident enough to go out, I needed to remove myself. So just a moment was about me taking my son to school. I would take him to school and I would be overwhelmed, and I would put on a face, a persona, that people would think, well, she's confident, and I would do it for my son, but inside I was breaking, like I was out. So that series, and there's 16 in the series, it's about just a moment while I just readjust this mask that I need to put on, and okay, here I am now. All right. Well, yeah. And it was interesting that I had them in my series, in my studio, and I had some people come in, and some people could look at that series and they loved it, and other people needed to turn away. And I remember I had one man who came in, and I was just explaining about the mask, and my needing to feel like I needed to compose myself before I sort of publicly presented myself. And he turned to me and he just had this look, and he said to me, "This is the only face you will ever see me wear." And it
Oh,
shut me down. It completely shut me down. And I remember his daughter was standing there, and she was looking at him like, but he was, something about those pieces had triggered something
mm,
in him, and he didn't like it.
that is fascinating. This is the one, it looks like it's looking at the side.
It is, that is the profile. And then I had them turning, these were based on hat, their hat mannequins, things that they used to use when they were making hats. And they came from an antique store, so they already had their own history. So they were worn and torn, and so I did them turning in a full 360 circle, 16 of them.
Isn't that fascinating how art can really trigger somebody's response to a, maybe a deep core wound as well.
Mm.
Maybe
That
something
that last piece that you showed, I haven't shown the series really, apart from in my studio, but I had a lady come in and she saw that piece and she wanted it. And I said that I'm not selling them. And she asked for about 2 years. And then I heard that she had developed cancer, and she has the piece.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I hope that she's still enjoying it. That's
Well, I hope that it gave her
mhm.
strength. She found strength in it, so I hope it gave her some strength.
One same piece can trigger someone or give someone complete, I mean, solace. And that's the beauty of art. That's the beauty of what you have expressed through this journey. There's just another piece I wanted to show here with talking about the journey, and this is if you could explain this one. I love hearing about the interpretations from you. It's called The Journey, and this particular series is well, if you could share, what was it about, your entire journey or just a specific one?
So the first one in that series, I had gone back to Australia, and I had gone back to revisit places that I had been to in sort of when I was growing up. So I went back to old houses we'd lived in and schools that I had gone to. So it was sort of re-walking my pathway, and then coming back forward again. And when I came away from that trip, I just had such an incredible sense of peace. Like my history, I had put the history, I hadn't forgotten the history. I would never forget the history, but I was at peace with it. And this was, I had been walking with my sister on a regular basis there on a track. And I knew as soon as I saw this track that I wanted to use this to represent that, putting the history,
Mm.
behind, yeah.
And by far, I see this next one as a very illuminating path. When you start with the charcoal, do you start on black and bring in the light, or do you start with the light and then you bring in the black?
Always with light. So it's just, I work on something that it's a frosted mylar that is semi-translucent, and
Mm.
I work on a white background. So I just have it pinned up against the wall, and then I start to add the black in. And then any of the areas that you see that like where the grass is using an eraser to pull the light back forward again.
Wow, beautiful techniques. And so the light really is breaking you open as you're searching and you're pulling the light through when you are doing these pieces. Hmm.
And more and more, the light is starting to enter my work, for sure. It's becoming a stronger and stronger element. It's having a louder voice than it used to.
You can see that in the background. You have this rose series behind you, which is beautiful. And I think that one we just showed is right behind your head. That
This is another series, and if I have a minute, can I speak to this series?
please, yes.
Okay, so this is part of the Journey series. It's the third one. And I had just taken the Year of Miracles. I was in the process of taking the Year of Miracles, and there was the, as you know, and there we were doing love, self-love. And, I had come to the realization that I was a people pleaser, that in order to make myself feel better, I was doing things for other people. I was pleasing other people. And I had had something happen, and I'd come to that realization. And you had that incredible month on self-love.
Mm.
And going to cry, but I didn't know I could.
Mm.
Just, I didn't know. And as soon as you address that, it changed everything for me. Just truly, it just made me realize that I had been living life from the outside and not the inside. And this story behind me is Journey Home. And it truly is about a journey back home to me, back to the soul, allowing the soul to be my voice rather than other people or my mind. It's just about my soul speaking. And this piece behind, I had it on the wall in the studio. I just finished, and I came in, and the light from the window was shining directly on the house where the clouds are, and it was illuminated. It just was lit up. And I thought, yes, I'm on the right
Oh
path.
my goodness. To listen to your journey from the beginning, where you went through so much turmoil and a lack of voice, to this deep love for your son and the miracle that he is, to this journey into self-love, is extraordinary. It's really so beautifully curated through your series. And what a magnificent way to go through your life, through art, through expression. And anyone who is a creative will see and identify with your journey, because they know what it feels like to have this expression. Artists that I know can't do anything else. They are artists, performers or dancers, or their expression comes through their form of artistry. And I have such a deep admiration for that. I mean, it is something that I can't even draw a circle. My brother is an amazing artist, and his whole life has been um, displayed through art as well. And it's something that I have a deep admiration for. And for you, your message is so clear, and it's so beautiful for someone to really understand that they can also have this journey themselves. If they're open to it, they could go along this journey and basically show healing through art or any form of artistry that they have. What is your message through it all?
My message is to allow the journey to happen. That journey exists for everyone. That I found my voice through art was purely accidental. And it's something that has evolved and is still evolving. It I've just had to learn to let go, to trust, to not control, to just believe in myself and believe in the process and believe that this is my gift. This is my way of sharing with the world, my connection to the world.
Mhm.
And everybody has their own way, their own tool, their own message, their own story that is so worth telling, that is so, so worth finding its voice.
Yes. And you do that also on LinkedIn, which I think is a great way of collaborating with artists. Tell me a little bit about your LinkedIn profile.
I have an incredible community on LinkedIn, for which I'm incredibly grateful. And not just artists, they are people from all different backgrounds and all different professions. And what we do is support one another. We listen, we observe, we read, we're kind, we're considerate, we're respectful. We listen and we share our voice and other people share their voice. And it's just, I would never have guessed that LinkedIn would offer the community and the support that it does, but it does, it really
Mm.
does.
Mm-hmm. And so it's Susan Fraser-Hughes on LinkedIn. And you also help other people express their conversation through art. There's a rose series behind you. And is that other people's expression of art?
This is a very special series for me. It began with a series of drawings I did of a rose for my mother. My mother has dementia, and I was documenting just the deterioration of the essence of her that is still there, but
Mm.
the dementia that is taken away so much. And I exhibited them, and I had some people come up to me and say, your work, your statement touched my heart. Here's my story. And so I knew in that moment I needed to be telling other people's stories. And I'm finally at a place where my story continues, but I'm at the place where I can tell other people's stories. So the roses you see behind are roses that have been selected by other people, who have told me their stories, what's happened with their friend or with their family, and they've shared photographs. And then I draw their rose. I tell their story of their person who has dementia through their rose, through and their stories, their photographs. They're with me. They're in my heart as I'm drawing, and these are what's unfolding as a result.
That is beautiful. And I'm sure that series is so special to have the fully blooming rose wither to its beautiful imperfection. Hmm.
They're 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 incredible. They're incredible flowers. Incredible
Yes. Well,
flowers.
I really have enjoyed this conversation because not only is it a journey of learning about you, but it's also opens other people to that conversation of healing. And healing is possible, and it doesn't, sometimes you don't know how to express it because it's so deeply embedded. Yeah.
Thank you. Just it's opening the door just that little bit, to allow the stories to unfold. Yeah.
The conversations of healing. Well, thank you so much. Susan's website is susanfraserhughes.com. And also you can check out her LinkedIn profile and collaborate with her there and just continue to explore the conversation of healing through art. Thank you so much, Susan.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, deeply appreciate you. And thank you for being our rising star. This is
Oh,
exactly what a rising star is. So I deeply appreciate you. And if anyone is interested in the Rising Stars program, you can go to theawareshow.com/rising star. Thank you so much, Susan. I am so blessed to have had this conversation with you. And until next time, my friend, please stay aware.